in our counties and constituencies before 2024. Remember, I'm not scrapping RMLF. I'm only reducing by 7 shillings, going to what was there in the year 2024. And after reduction, we'll be adding on the other side of GOK funded budget.
Thank you very much. You know, the beauty of Parliament is we agree to disagree. And now I want to persuade you, if you strongly feel that the reduction in the budget that you have submitted to the Budget Committee, that once the debate comes to Parliament, you'll be able to convince the rest of your colleagues, the rest of us, to agree with your proposals. But we thank you for taking your time to come and present for this committee and doing the presentation that you've done. Thank you and have a good afternoon. Our next stakeholder is ATC. We'll have ABM, Cusco, Old Mucho as PwC. Please, you have the floor. Include also in the group GSMA. So you know the drill. Most of you, we have been together for the last 4 years. I have seen some of you appear before this committee on different presentations. So please take us through views that have not been highlighted and take us through your sector-specific submissions. You may proceed. Give a chance for everyone to introduce themselves and the decision to come, they come from, then take us through submissions.
Maybe, Chair, I don't know. Given the numbers that we have, and given that we have been engaging with many of these stakeholders, can I propose that, Chair, we reduce time from 20 minutes to 10 minutes, and we can consider each case on a case-by-case basis so that we are able to listen to all the stakeholders before evening today. Chair.
That's a difficult ask. Considering that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 institutions, then they can take 20 minutes for all their submissions instead of giving them each 10 minutes as you're proposing. I proceed.
I'll try that again. So good afternoon, Chair and honorable members of the committee. Job Kabochi with PwC and representing a couple of our clients with us. And beg your indulgence on the 20 minutes, 10 minutes. What we hope to do is make sure that we merge issues that cut across areas of the taxpayers so that we save time where we can. But I will then ask for your indulgence that you don't squeeze us too much. But we'll try and save time. We'll introduce ourselves as we go through each and every one of the issues. We are happy to go as detailed as the committee may want of us. But we have done now made the very detailed presentation section by section. So what we hope to do is highlight or bring out illustrations that actually then talk to the kind of impact that we then expect to be coming through from some of the proposed changes. So without further ado, I'll hand over to my colleague who will then walk us through the ATC submissions. I believe it's only one issue, then I'll then come back to the next issue.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Chair. My name is Salome Kaiba. I'm a tax director at PwC. I'll give to introduce themselves.
Thank you, Chair and honorable members. My name is Kevin Muregi, and I'm the Chief Financial Officer at ETC Kenya.
Good afternoon, honorable members. Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity. My name is Eunice Agasa, Tax Manager at ATC Kenya. We request for 30 seconds to introduce who ATC are. We are a leading provider of wireless and broadcast infrastructure, where we provide over 4,000 infrastructure to customers is Airtel and Safaricom. So we mainly facilitate telecommunication and network communication to millions of Kenyans. So I'll hand over to Salome to give our proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. American Tower Corporation, the short form of ATC, is the largest telecommunication tower in the world. They have a subsidiary in Kenya, ATC. We only have one submission. So ATC is in relation to conversion into a real estate investment trust, because the parent company is a real estate investment trust in America. Therefore, there is need for alignment of the Kenyan entity to be a real estate investment trust. Thank you for providing exemptions, because there are exemptions that came through the Finance Bill 2026. The exemption relating to capital gains tax, there was an exemption relating to capital gains tax on transfer of property into a real estate investment trust, a stamp duty exemption. The VAT is already there. There is exemption from transfer of assets into a real estate investment trust. So thank you for those exemptions that came through the Finance Bill 2026. But what is missing currently, because remember, when you transfer assets into a real estate investment trust, there is VAT, there is capital gains tax, there is stamp duty, but then there is also corporation tax. And corporation tax applies to when you transfer depreciable assets, assets that are subject to capital allowances. Those ones are subject to corporate tax. So our proposal, if you look at slide 8 of our presentation, is to extend the exemption, not just to include the capital gains tax and stamp duty, but to extend the exemption to cover corporation tax, so that once the transfers are done into a rate, it's transferred in a tax neutral manner. So our proposal is to amend the first schedule to the income tax paragraph, to add paragraph 77 that says that the transfer of business or asset into a real estate investment trust authorized at the Capital Markets Act or investing entity of a rate at the Capital Markets Act should be exempt from corporate tax. So the first schedule exempt income tax or income taxes. So once it's included there, it will be exempt. Alternatively, because you included paragraph 20 of the Finance Bill or section 20 of the Finance Bill, you included the capital gains tax exemption. So it's just amending paragraph 76 as introduced by the Finance Bill by deleting the word capital. So paragraph 76 will read as any gains relating to the transfer of property to a real estate investment trust registered by the Commissioner under section 21. So once you delete the word capital, it will cover everything. It will cover all income. So that is our proposal. This will, of course, increase entities that become rate in Kenya. I know there have been slow uptake of rates in Kenya, but once you make this adjustment, then you have more uptake. And companies will convert into a rate and raise capital, raise investment, and increase their capital. That's our submission.
Also, Honorable Chair, just on top of that, if we look at the telecommunication industry, it's estimated that in the next couple of years, the industry will add an additional 662 billion shillings into the GDP. And with that, the foundation of it all is increasing the number of telecommunication towers in the country. And this particular proposal will definitely provide us with an avenue of increasing capital that is quite critical to this capital-intensive sector. Thank you.
So, Chair, back to the committee. That is the submission from ATC. If there is any reaction, then happy to take the reactions.
Thank you very much for your submission. You know, if you've been following the discussion, there has been accusations that some of the proposals from the stakeholders seem to be favoring the wealthy, exempting the wealthy and not. And a good example is I'm looking at the requests that you've made. You already have exemption for stamp duty for REITs. You already have exemption for capital gains tax, and now you are seeking a further exemption on corporation tax. So who is going to pay taxes if the people in REITs, who of course is not the ordinary Kenyan, are exempted from taxes, but then you want further exemptions, and whereas on the other side you're trying to raise money from everyone to support our budget.
I can respond to that, Chair. Remember this, when you transfer assets into a real estate investment trust, the reason why you are transferring assets into a real estate investment trust is to raise capital, to mobilize more investment. So there will be, of course, capital coming into the country because real estate investment trusts are required to have 25% of their shares as free float. But one of the taxation of a real estate investment trust, they are not exempt from dividend, and the law requires them to distribute 80% of the income they earn as dividends. And therefore, when you have non-resident, the government, of course, there is exemption at the point you are transferring, but the moment you transfer and start making income, there is 15% that maybe could not have been there. So there is just for tax neutrality, because you are transferring into almost the same shareholders. It's just you are like reorganizing the company. So there is not much change in terms of the shareholding. But then you get more taxes from the dividend that is paid to the government on distribution of dividends.
Thank you very much, ATC, for that explanation. Are you the one making the next submission for ABM, Kuskol, Mucho, IDAC?
Thank you, Chair. So I'll take the next one, which is ABM. So this one touches on excise duty as well as VAT. I have the taxpayer with me, so I'll allow him to introduce himself and just set the scene, and then I'll touch on the technical provisions of the law. And hopefully you've seen that we are trying to be as precise as we can.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable members. My name is Nixon Paloma from ABM, Group Finance Manager. I'll just take you through a brief of what we do as a company. We are a lead acid manufacturing company, the biggest in East and Central Africa.
You need to put your mic, you need to be a politician.
Sorry. I hope I'm now audible. We are the largest manufacturer in East and for automotive and solar applications. In terms of the issues that have brought us here, there are only two issues. Exemption of solar batteries and excise being introduced on coal, which is one of our main raw materials that we use when we are refining lead. Year in, year out, we've had these proposals come into the finance bill, and I think over the last 3 years we've been here over the same issue, Chair. And we are here again over the same issue of exempting solar. But all the inputs that we use come with VAT. So actually, the exemption, if the exemption goes through, then what happens is that the VAT element that comes with the inputs then become a cost on the product, and this has to be passed on onto the consumer. So we don't see that being very productive. If the aim is to reduce the cost to the end user who consume batteries, and majority of the consumers of solar the villages that we have in a country where we don't have electricity connections, these will just end up increasing the cost of the product to the lower end of the market. In terms of excise, it is the same impact. Once we introduce excise, then that will increase the cost of all our inputs. But also, just to mention, we buy our coal from Tanzania. Tanzania has not imposed excise on its manufacturers. We have 3 battery manufacturers in Tanzania currently who are manufacturing also lead-based batteries. We have 2 in Uganda. So that will make us uncompetitive, and 50% of the product we make is for export. We export 50% of our output to the Comesa region. So this will impact on our competitiveness in the market. I'll let PwC maybe make some more comments on that.
Yeah. Thank you, Nixon. So, Chair, I won't belabor the point, but I think this is where we're seeing certain changes which are then being brought up that end up affecting a taxpayer adversely, who is then, living the spirit of building and investing in Kenya for the purposes of our own economic development. You actually made the submission on our behalf when you were having the conversation with Honorable Ndindi Nyoro on the issue of VAT exemption versus zero rating. So this one does, one of the examples we've given here is just showing the impact of the business not being able to recover their input tax just because you're moving, or the law is proposing to move their supplies from zero rated to exemption. The other one, whilst we might have, and to preempt a question around the 5% of excise on coal, I know we are working towards the net zero emission, but that's a journey. If you think about the cost of production from an energy perspective, the other alternative sources of fuel at the moment are pretty expensive. We've had a conversation around the petroleum fuels and how expensive they become. The alternative would also be electricity. Our tariffs, again, compared to our neighbors, are not very favorable for a business like ABM. And worst case scenario, we might push such a business to going through the use of wood fuel, which again goes against our sustainability journey as a country. So what we are proposing is that this proposal to introduce the 5% excise duty is removed, just for us to remain competitive vis-a-vis the regional other players, as well as to then retain the zero rating that the sector then enjoys. I submit, Chair.
So thank you very much. This issue of first schedule and second schedule of the VAT Act is always the back and forth between us and National Treasury. But the reasoning of National Treasury is, of course, this leads to tax expenditures, and they claim there has not been a demonstration that maintaining your item as a zero-rated product is advantageous to the consumer. there has not been a demonstration that once we retain your items at zero rate, you transfer that benefit to the consumer in terms of the price. So I think the onus is on you to prove to us that actually, when these items are zero rate, then it affects your price, and it reduces your price other than when it's exempt or VAT.
So if I may react to that, Chair, I believe for the business to remain sustainable, in this example, all the inputs that the business is procuring towards their production process, they then attract the 16% VAT, which is then not going to be recoverable. We are then saying the same industry, we are then loading a 5% excise duty. I believe with all due respect, it's going to be very difficult for the business without adjusting their pricing model to absorb those costs, because you're talking about the 16% on the. If you compare to the imports that are even coming into the country, we do not have excise duty being levied on the batteries that are imported from the neighbors. So if anything, for completion, then perhaps if we are going to go the exempt route when it comes to the production side or the sales side, perhaps we then need to exempt the inputs that go into the manufacture of these solar batteries. So it's going to be very difficult given the kind of percentages we are talking about, Bwana Chair.
In short, you're not giving a guarantee that you transfer that benefit if you give it to the consumer.
Sorry, Chair, just to add, this also gives advantage to imports from China, India, because they are not subjected to absorbing their input VAT from the countries where the products are coming from, therefore putting us at a disadvantaged position to compete with all the imports that are coming in. In terms of demonstrating that we will pass it on to the consumer, I mean, we've held the prices for the product for a while as cost goes up, and it is for that reason. If it is this time round, if the exemption goes through, then we have no choice other than to adjust our prices upwards, and the consumer will have to pay for it.
All right, thank you. The next submission.
Thank you, Chair. So the next one that we have is...
and I don't know how, for some reason, your timer is not showing. I don't know what
we are being very conservative, Chair.
Next.
Thank you, Chair. So the next one is Cusco, which will be led by my colleague, and I will then come in to support him.
Thanks, Chair, for the opportunity for us to present. This is Cusco in front of you. I'm Nicholas Cajero. I'm Associate Director at PwC. I'll hand over to my partners, Cusco, also to introduce themselves.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jafford Mwenda. I'm the Chief Manager of Finance at Stima Sacco.
Good afternoon, Chair and the Honorable Committee members. My name is Daniel Mwangi, Finance Manager at Cusco Limited. Cusco means Kenya Union of Saving and Credit Cooperative. I know, Chair, for the longest time, maybe 2 years ago, for the last 2 years, Cusco name is always in the long books. But today I'm glad that you are here for the good cause and the noble cause of our mandate. And our mandate as Cusco, maybe to start with, was established in 1973 as an apex organization representing SACCOs.
Yes, if I were you, most of us are very serious cooperators. we are your members, so you should. If I were you, I would skip to the issues.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I will hand the mic to our consultant PwC so that they can table the issues we have. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. We have 4 issues to discuss, but in the interest of time, we'll cover 3. The 4th issue will be covered in substantive discussions. The first one relates to Income Tax Act, and it's around Section 19A7, which is around the definition of the term primary designated cooperative society. I think the second issue that we want to deliberate on covers the excise duty. the PAYE bands. I'll hand over to my colleague Bismarck just to
a tax incentive that is provided for SACCOs, primarily SACCOs that are described as primary designated cooperative societies, right? So under primary designated cooperative society, these SACCOs enjoy tax incentives, particularly exemption from interest income from trading with their members, and also a 50% taxation from other income, right? However, Chair, our proposal focuses on the fact that, unfortunately, under the Act, primary designated societies are those societies whereby their membership includes only individuals, right? So only SACCOs that have members who are individuals can actually gain from these tax incentives. Unfortunately, Chair, the current market, in the current state of SACCOs, it is very difficult for a SACCO to continue with members who are only individuals, right? Most SACCOs, in fact, have members who are of mixed membership, right? You have your boda SACCOs, or rather your boda groups, you have your farmers, you have your mama mbogas who come together and seek to save in a SACCO. But unfortunately, if a SACCO were to allow these particular groups into their membership, then they cannot enjoy these tax incentives, right? So our proposal is that we expand the meaning of these designated primary cooperative societies, right, to include groups of individuals and even corporate persons. So I just wanted to add one last thing, is that the definition of a primary cooperative society was actually made in 1973. If you look at the Cooperative Societies Act, that definition was made in 1973. Chair, the current market right now for cooperative societies, as you have rightfully said, we are all cooperating. The current membership in 1973 does not reflect the current market at the moment. I'd also like to add that there's actually a bill before Parliament, the Cooperative Societies Bill, that also seeks to redefine the definition of a cooperative society, right? And the definition of a primary cooperative society under the bill is not pegged on their membership, but rather what they do. So you find that these cooperative societies are actually primary cooperative societies under the new bill, for example, cooperative societies that deal in agriculture, cooperative societies that deal in housing, cooperative societies that deal in transport, in working cooperatives. So, Chair, I'll just hand back to my colleague in case of any further.
So, Chair, thank you. The next proposal touches on excise duty, and this one is one that we are making to align to certain of the other incentives that are available to the SACCOs, all geared towards making available affordable capital, or affordable funding to the members who come together. So in the spirit of appreciating that the SACCOs bring together funds from their members, we've seen that the income tax legislation does exempt from income tax any income that then the SACCO derives from interacting with its members, yeah? And additionally, even if where the SACCO then goes ahead and earns other income which is not from its members, there is then provision in the income tax legislation that then allows for 50% of that income then to be exempted from income tax. But we do not see the same when it comes to the excise duty legislation. We believe this is an anomaly, and the provision that we are then touching on is Section 5 of Section 5A of the Excise Duty Act, read together with Paragraph 4 of the first schedule, which then imposes excise duty at the rate of 20% on other fees that are then charged by the SACCO. So you can imagine if you go for a loan facility from the SACCO, any other fee that is charged over and above the interest, say for arranging of the facility, is subjected to excise duty. So we see a disconnect between the spirit that is there in the income tax legislation versus what we are then seeing coming through the excise duty legislation. And if the same spirit of encouraging saving and encouraging access to financing for the likes of the bodas and the other members of SACCOs is to be carried through, we are then making this submission, then requesting that this also be considered, that other fee is then also exempted from excise duty. I'll pause there, and then
And your time is up. I'll give you just 5 additional minutes to wind up.
Okay, sure.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Paul Dirangu with PwC. So I'm going to submit a proposal regarding the PAYE bans. And this has been alluded to by the National Church Council of Kenya. And just to say that this is one of the changes that Kenyans had really anticipated. And they remain optimistic. We remain optimistic that this will see the light of the day. So basically, what we are submitting today is to say that the government made commitments through the medium-term revenue strategy, which sought to do 2 things to the PAYE bans. One is to harmonize the tax rate for PAYE to that of the corporate tax, and number 2, to review the tax bans to make them more progressive. So the reprieve that Kenyans have received as far as the revision of PAYE bans is concerned, it's since 2020, the COVID year, when the rate of tax, the top rate was reduced from 30% to 25%. Since that time in COVID, we haven't seen a reprieve of taxpayers as far as the revision of PAYE bans is concerned. In 2023, there was a revision of the bans, but this really targeted the high-income earners by introducing higher taxes for people earning more than 500,000 shillings per month. So we saw the introduction of that 2.5% tax band and also that 5% tax band. So if you look at what has happened in the economy since the COVID time, the disposable incomes of Kenyans have been seriously eroded by a number of factors, and I'm just going to highlight a few. Number 1 being inflation. So if you look at the latest report from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, released in April of 2026, the report uses 2019 as a base year for comparing the changes in the consumer price index and inflation. So the report shows that if you needed 1,000 shillings in 2019 to buy a basket of goods or services, in 2026, to buy the same goods or services, you require at least 1,500 shillings. If you needed 10,000 shillings to buy a basket of goods or services in 2019, in 2026, to buy the same exact basket of goods, you need to have at least 15,000 shillings. So the consumer price index has increased to 152 percentage points, which basically means that the prices, the average retail prices of the common commodities that the common mwananchi buys from the retail shops has increased by 52%. So the other thing that has happened in the same time frame is basically the introduction of the employment deductions on payroll. Affordable housing levy 1.5%. We've seen the introduction of SHIF, 2.75% of gross, and the NSSF contributions have been adjusted. And the other thing that also happened in the intervening period is that the shilling has continued to depreciate. So between 2019 to date, the shilling has lost value by approximately 25%. So Kenya, being a net importer, it means that the price of imported goods has gone up by approximately 25% or have become more expensive. So these factors have really eroded the disposable incomes of Kenyans. So our proposal is basically to review the PAYE bans that are outlined in the 3rd schedule of the Income Tax Act, and we are proposing 1, reducing the current stop tax rate from 35% to 30%. And number 2, elevating the entry point for PAYE from the current 24,000 shillings per month to 40,000 shillings per month. So the income tax bracket in between then should be widened so that we can cushion more low and middle income earners. So our proposal is basically to tax between 40,000 shillings per month to 60,000 shillings per month. PAYE should apply at a rate of 20%, and between 60,000 shillings per month to 500,000 shillings, we are talking about 25% PAYE, and above 500,000 shillings per month, then PAYE to apply at 30%. So this will be in alignment with the commitments that the government have made in the MTRS, and as the National Church of Council alluded, this is going to start a chain reaction. So the moment this initiative is done, we are going to have an increase in the disposable incomes, and that automatically stimulates the activity in the economy. So by having people have more money in their pockets, what's going to happen is that you stimulate consumption. And when people spend, then the government almost instantly starts to collect VAT. if they don't spend that money, they are going to save it. And when they save it, then the money goes into the financial services, and also the government is going to recoup withholding tax from dividends, from interest that Kenyans will be earning. So the other thing is that the business environment will improve, because increased disposable incomes will automatically then lead to increase in demand of products and services. So there'll be more business activity, corporate income tax will grow as businesses do well, and they'll create more jobs. Again, PAYE from the new jobs, which then increases or expands the tax base. So this one is going to solve a lot of issues, and we are hoping that this proposal then will be considered.
Oral submissions you're making. National yes, the gentleman on the
Thanks, Chair. Maybe I'll hand over to Job.
Thank you very much, Chair. And with the indulgence, this is the GSMA. We've not had a chance to submit. We'd like to maybe ask for 5 minutes to submit as well.
You got 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. I will quickly, because of the time, I know a lot has been said already. The GSMA is Global Mobile Network Membership Association, and we have the advantage of looking at data from a global perspective. And I bring you, Chair, good news, because I'm focusing very much on the population that you mentioned at the start of this, the population that are not able to buy devices at the high-end devices, and the population that you are looking to speak to, you and members are looking to speak to next year when we go back to ask our people to take to go to the ballot to vote. So we are saying, how do we make this population available for us to speak to from your phone? And we can only make this possible by increasing the affordability of the low-end devices, the entry-level devices. These are devices sold below 15,000 shillings. The GSMA has seen that increasing affordability for these devices significantly increases uptake. And in South Africa, for instance, the country reduced excise by 9%, and there was a 46% increase in smart device affordability. And subsequently, there was as 5% and to have everyone on mobile broadband means reducing excise duty as much as possible. You've spoken about the 25%, but we feel it is still high for our mamambogas, our people in the countryside. If we can reduce significantly that excise duty or remove it altogether for devices up to 15,000 shillings, then we will see a lot of uptake. And we are also promising that, I know you asked the question about pass-through to the consumers. We are promising that we've seen pass-throughs in various countries. We've seen pass-through in South Africa. We've seen also in Ghana and such. And secondly, Chair, we are also speaking about mobile money. We've done a lot of work as a country to increase mobile money penetration in the country, and payments. Now you see people, asking that, let me pay through mobile money instead of cash. But now with the proposed introduction of 16% excise on payments, it is likely to claw back on the efforts that we've had as a country. If you look at it from a revenue perspective, we are saying that it may not really give the revenue that the government is looking for because of reduced uptake of these services. We are saying there could be another way of increasing this revenue by digitalizing the economy. We know the government has done that very well, but we can have more digitalization of the economy so that then we don't need to increase levy on the payments, because that will lead to significant reduction of usage in the target economy. Thank you. I invite responses and questions.
Thank you very much. And it's important to inform you, GSM, you have not uploaded your submissions on our portal. Please do that. You have really deliberated on the matters, so we will do the best we can to give them kind consideration, and for sure we'll try to carry with them in our report as much as we can. Thank you very much. RSM EAVCA.
Chair, if I may, there was a bit of confusion there. We were not done with the taxpayers you had given a chance to present. We still have our Old Mutual, Airtel, Safaricom, and EDAC, which you had queued up together with GSMA. So if you may, please indulge us.
Yes, but you think you need to be more organized. You know, the reason why the taxpayer comes with a consultant is for the consultant to make the presentation on their behalf, unless there is a clarification. Now, this where now you're starting to introduce, we are losing out of minutes there. To have much easier if PwC would have just made the submission on behalf of your clients. So how many more minutes do you need?
We still have four submissions, Chair, so that would be at least 40 minutes.
If we give you 40, then what happens to all these other stakeholders?
We'll be quick. We'll save time.
You'll have 10. Make the submissions. You know the issues. Make the submissions yourself. Take 10 minutes.
We stand guided, Chair.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair, and thank you for this opportunity. I'll make submissions on behalf of Old Mutual and Airtel Kenya, and I'll submit the limitation of carry forward of losses under Section 15 of the Income Tax Act. So, Chair, that particular provision was introduced to limit the carry forward of losses to 5 years. And unfortunately, in the 1 year that provision has been in force, one of the challenges that has been there is with regard to its interpretation. And numerous times as we have appeared before this particular committee, you have always invited us to bring matters before you where we seek clarity and in terms of certainty. In this particular case, Chair, the issue that we have is with regard to the interpretation that has been brought forward by the Kenya Revenue Authority with regard to this particular provision and its application. The interpretation in this case is that this particular provision applies retrospectively, such that it goes back 5 years rather than going prospectively from 1st of July 2025. What has then happened is that administratively, through iTax, taxpayers have then been locked out in terms of accessing losses that then arose prior to the year 2020. Unfortunately, Chair, these tax losses have arisen through actual review of or use of allowances that have actually been provided for under the law. And Chair, in this particular case, our request is that there needs to be clarity with regard to the application of this particular provision and ensuring that this particular provision only applies going forward from 1st of July 2025. In that particular case, our submission, Chair, is that there should be a transitional provision introduced to clarify that the tax losses that arose prior to 1st July 2025 are then rolled forward, and that provision only applies prospectively. And this is in line to the previous capping of losses which was there in 2009, and in that particular case, there was a transitional provision that was introduced accompanying the capping of the losses. Any additional?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the opportunity. Let me just add a couple of remarks. My name is Shailendra. I'm the Finance Director for Airtel Kenya. And, even before this provision, look at the circumstance in which we operate. We have, on one side, customers who are expecting us to provide a very high quality experience, cover the entire country, put forward the latest technologies. And then we also have regulatory guidelines which set a minimum bar on the experience that needs to be provided. Now, in order to fulfill both these stakeholders, there is a lot of investment which goes at the back in form of putting sites, spectrum, telecom infra, putting up the backhaul. All these are investments where the gestation period is 10 years or longer. So If we are going to expire losses within 5 years, then we will not have completed even the cycle where it gives it starts becoming profitable. The recent example which I can give is there's a data center which is being put up. There's no way in 5 years it will